Every breach has a moment where someone makes a choice. Welcome to Threat Level Human, where we examine the attacks that exploit that moment, the psychology behind them, and the people caught inside them. The attack vector you can't patch. The Ghostwriter, Playbook, how Belarus built a nearly undetectable espionage campaign. A Ukrainian government employee opens a PDF on a Tuesday morning. It appears to be a routine notice from Ukrtelecom, the country's national telecom provider, about secure customer data protection. The document looks slightly blurry, but that is not unusual for a scanned administrative notice. They click the embedded link. Simultaneously, a security sandbox in a Western European data center attempts to open the same link from a non-Ukrainian IP address. It receives a clean, benign PDF. No malware, no alert, no verdict, 2 identical actions, 2 completely different outcomes. That asymmetry is not an accident. It was engineered. In March 2026, ESET researchers identified an active espionage campaign targeting government and military organizations in Poland and Ukraine. The threat actor behind it is tracked under multiple names: FrostyNeighbor, Ghostwriter, UNC1151, TA445, and Storm0257, and is assessed by the security community to be operating on behalf of the Belarusian government. This is not a new group. FrostyNeighbor has been assessed as active since at least 2016. Its operations have historically combined cyber espionage with influence activity, spear phishing, credential theft, malware deployment, and disinformation campaigns targeting Germany, Poland, Ukraine, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. What ESET published in May 2026 is not simply another campaign report. It documents a meaningful tactical evolution, one that tells us something important about how state-sponsored actors adapt when defenders get better. The group did not get louder. It got quieter, more selective, and significantly harder to detect. Let us walk through the mechanics. The campaign begins with a spear phishing email carrying a PDF lure. Since January 2026, ESET notes that the group appears to have abandoned macro-based lure documents entirely, shifting to what their senior malware researcher Damian Schaefer describes as blurry PDFs containing a malicious link to the next stage. That detail matters. For years, enterprise security teams have focused heavily on blocking macro-enabled Office documents, and with good reason. Macros were a primary delivery mechanism for malware across dozens of campaigns. FrostyNeighbor's shift to PDFs sidesteps that entire defensive layer. A blurry PDF impersonating a nationally recognized telecom provider does not trigger macro blocking policies. It does not look like an attack artifact. It looks like a slightly low-quality administrative document from a company the recipient likely has a real relationship with. The PDF impersonates Ukrtelecom and claims to offer secure customer data protection. It includes a download link hosted on attacker-controlled infrastructure. When a recipient clicks that link, the first filter activates. This is where the server-side geolocation validation comes in. The attacker's server checks the IP address of the incoming request. If the request originates from outside Ukraine, the server returns a benign PDF, nothing suspicious, nothing actionable. A security analyst in Amsterdam or London running that link through a sandbox gets a clean result. The campaign is effectively invisible to them. If the request comes from a Ukrainian IP address, the server delivers a RAR archive. Inside that archive is a JavaScript file. When executed, it does 2 things simultaneously. It opens the decoy PDF, the blurry Ukrtelecom document, to maintain the illusion of a legitimate interaction, and it silently executes the second stage, a JavaScript-based version of Picasso Loader the group's primary payload downloader. Picasso Loader then fingerprints the victim's machine. It collects the username, computer name, operating system version, boot time, current time, and a full list of running processes with their process IDs. That data is transmitted back to the attacker's command and control infrastructure, and here is where the campaign becomes genuinely unusual. Based on ESET's assessment, the decision about whether to deliver the final payload is very likely made manually by a human operator reviewing that fingerprint data. If the victim profile matches what the operators are looking for, the C2 responds with a third-stage JavaScript dropper that installs Cobalt Strike, a professional-grade remote access tool used for post-compromise operations. If the victim does not meet the criteria, the C2 returns an empty response. The chain simply stops. No payload, no trace. The technical architecture of this campaign is sophisticated, but the human factors that make it effective are worth examining separately, because they are the reason the technical choices were made in the first place. Start with brand trust. Ukrtelecom is Ukraine's national telecom provider. A notice from that organization arriving in a government employee's inbox carries inherent legitimacy. The recipient is not being asked to trust a stranger. They are being asked to trust an institution they already have a relationship with. That is a fundamentally different psychological ask, and it dramatically lowers the threshold for engagement. The blurry document quality is also deliberate. A slightly degraded PDF does not signal danger to most recipients. It signals a scanned document, a fax conversion, an administrative process. It is familiar enough to be credible and imperfect enough to explain away any visual inconsistency. The attacker is exploiting the recipient's tolerance for minor document quality issues in bureaucratic communications. Then there is the geofencing layer, which is not just a technical control. It is an organizational trust exploit aimed at defenders. Security operations teams rely heavily on automated sandbox analysis. When a suspicious link produces a clean verdict, the investigation typically closes. FrostyNeighbor has engineered a campaign that produces clean verdicts for everyone except the intended victims. It is not evading the technology. It is exploiting the organizational process that trusts the technology's output. Finally, the manual human review step reflects a level of operational discipline that separates state-sponsored actors from criminal groups. A criminal operation optimizes for volume. A state intelligence program optimizes for precision and deniability. The willingness to insert a human decision point, slowing the operation down, accepting operational overhead, tells us the operators prioritize not getting caught over maximizing reach. That patience is itself a threat indicator. The direct operational consequence of a successful Cobalt Strike implant in a government network is significant. Cobalt Strike provides an attacker with persistent remote access, lateral movement capability, and the ability to conduct long-term reconnaissance inside a target environment. For government and military organizations in an active conflict region, that means potential exposure of operational communications, personnel data, and strategic planning materials. The second consequence is analytical. Because the campaign is specifically designed to return clean results to non-Ukrainian IP addresses, security teams outside the target region have limited visibility into its actual scope. The number of organizations successfully compromised is not publicly confirmed, which is itself an indicator of how effectively the campaign controls its own exposure. ESET has specifically advised organizations in Poland, Lithuania, and Ukraine to implement defensive measures. indicating that the threat remains active and credible. For those organizations, the risk is not theoretical. 3 specific recommendations follow from this campaign's design. First, automated sandbox verdicts cannot be the final word on suspicious links in high-risk sectors. Security operations teams targeting government or critical infrastructure environments should implement geographically representative detonation, testing links from IP addresses within the expected target region, not just from centralized analysis infrastructure. Second, PDF lures impersonating domestic telecommunications providers deserve elevated scrutiny in Eastern European government networks. The shift away from macro-based documents means existing detection rules built around office file behavior will not catch this class of lure. Detection logic needs to be updated accordingly. Third, threat intelligence sharing across Eastern European government networks is operationally necessary here, not optional. Organizations in the target region should be ingesting and acting on those IOCs immediately, not waiting for a vendor to push an updated signature. FrostyNeighbor's 2026 campaign is a useful reminder of something that gets lost in discussions about sophisticated malware and complex attack chains. The most dangerous operations are not the ones that make the most noise. They are the ones designed to look like nothing to every automated system, to every analyst outside the target zone, and to the recipient who sees a slightly blurry PDF from their telecom provider on a Tuesday morning. When a nation-state decides to be patient, precise, and operationally disciplined, the standard automated defenses are not sufficient. The answer is not better automation alone. It is human judgment, regional intelligence sharing, and the willingness to question a clean verdict. If this analysis was useful, subscribe so you do not miss the next one. All sources used in this video are listed in the description. This case study is a mirror. Somewhere in your organization, a similar interaction is happening right now, a conversation, a request, a moment of urgency, trust, or confusion. The question isn't whether these attacks are targeting your people. The question is whether anyone recognizes the pattern before it turns into an incident. New episodes every week. If this kind of analysis is useful to you, subscribe and leave a like. It helps more people find it.